Hello, good evening, good morning, and welcome. And I've swapped sides. No, sorry, mate. No. I can't be on that side. I can't. Freak me out. I'll start again. Hello, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. We are here this evening with young Matt to have a bit of a chat about. Am I pointing the right way now, Matt?
I'm gonna check. Yes.
We're going to do a bit of a Stargate chat. We're going to talk about this SGC series because I want to know what you guys think. But mainly, we're going to talk about some of the updates that we've had in the last couple of weeks. I want to live, if anybody wants to get in the comments and you tell me what you think live, and we'll answer any questions you've got as well. But also just to have a chat with Matt and see what he thinks about some of the updates that we've had recently. The biggest one being the video I did last week suggesting that a source I've been speaking to that works in Hollywood has said that Amazon have picked their showrunner, but we don't know who it is. It is Matt. But anyway, before we get into that, how are you, Matt? How are you doing? Thank you for joining us this evening.
I'm very well. How are you, Jay?
You know, I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. As I said, my wife's gone out. She's not coming back for 4 days, so I'm taking advantage of doing loads and loads of live videos. God love it. Right, so let's just get into the showrunner then, because I asked people on the video, who do you think this showrunner is? And we'll give a little bit of background on this. So the guy I talked to, who told us about Mark Ferguson, Hawk Ostby, which we'll talk about in a minute, told me that he couldn't understand why there isn't a showrunner. So you do the showrunner first. It's the captain of the ship. It's the boss. It's the guy that everything else flows through. It's you. You have the showrunner, executive producers, and then you start doing other things. Then you start thinking about the show. He says this is hearing this stuff about potentially people that were coming on maybe as producers and doing this work was backwards. But then he said the rumor that they have picked a showrunner, that it's not dotted and contract signed yet because this person has a contract with another streaming service or another studio. They cannot formally agree until that contract is resolved. In the video I talked about, I said when that contract ends, but actually that's not what he told me, and he did correct me. I did get a message saying that's not what I said, dickhead. And I was just like, oh yeah. He actually said that the contract's resolved. So he says that it may be that they're trying to get this person out of a contract, and that they think that'll be resolved around Christmas time. This person wants to leave their contract, but they're having to go through all that rigmarole, or whatever it is. For whatever reason, it needs to be resolved. So that's where we're at. First of all, what did you think about that news when the video dropped? Did I actually tell you before the video dropped that had happened, or I just dropped the video? I can't remember.
Nope, you just dropped the video and I watched it.
With everybody else, I did it really quickly. As soon as I got that news, I was like, boom, 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 got to get this video out quick. So I didn't mess around.
Yeah, as soon as the video dropped, I always look through the comments as I'm watching a video, and I saw loads of people mentioning Amanda Tapping, and was quite excited about that. And I thought, watching it, you were going to say, "Oh, Amanda Tapping is definitely going to be doing it," but
I wish
that's not the case. We don't have a definite. We don't know exactly who it is yet. I then thought, well, if it's not Amanda Tapping, who could it be? And thought, well, the only there's loads of people who it could possibly be, but the one person I thought that was very I don't know, the one person who loves Stargate, the one person who wanted to bring Stargate back, who wanted to actually buy the franchise, was Joe Flanagan. And I thought that would be a good pick, but the only issue I have with it is, has he got experience behind the camera? He may have. We were talking about this before. He may have written an episode or two for Stargate Atlantis, but did he ever direct? Did he ever do? Has he ever done anything big, like a big project? on his
I
own.
remember him. I'm sure he wrote, and I think he directed a couple of episodes of Stargate Atlantis. But I went on his IMDb, and he's got no credits for anything like that. But maybe I was just looking at it wrong. But I couldn't find anything. He has got. So I went through. Excuse me. I went through a couple of people that have been listed because I'm following this thing of they're contracted to something, right? So that's my hint. So one of the names that came up was Robert C. Cooper, who was obviously one of the initial creators who co-created with Brad Wright. He's not signed up to anything at the moment, according to IMDb, unless he's contracted to something else that he's not being credited for on IMDb. It could be something else. So I think we can scratch Robert C. Cooper off because I don't see any reason why he couldn't jump straight into that. Joseph Malozzi is signed up. He is writing. He's just created a TV show called Utopia Falls. He was the creator. I think that's ended. But he is signed up to write something called Powder Mage, which is a project at the moment. So yeah, that's a possibility. Joe Flanagan signed up by something called Room 19, but he's going to be acting. Amanda Tipping is signed up to produce a TV show called Synthesis Season 0, and she will be producing. She's potentially going to appear in a horror movie, but that's the only thing as well. So, out of all of those,
with the Amanda Tapping thing, that synthesis, the wording of that Season 0 is a bit strange. Is that just like it's called that, is it?
Yeah, it's actually called Synthesis Season 0.
Oh, okay. Because I was thinking, is that just a pilot that they're going to be doing or something? If it's Season 0, a pilot, and then it's Season 1.
Well, my thinking on that one is, if it was Amanda Tapping, and that was the rumor I heard a long time ago, that Amazon would love Amanda Tapping to come and do this. She's a well-known director. She has executive produced a couple of shows, including Sanctuary, which she was virtually the showrunner for Sanctuary. She did everything. And she was executive producer on this that Salem thing that she just finished doing. Showrunner would be the next logical step for me. She has directed, she has done everything else. Harris is in the house. So it's a possibility for me with Amanda Tapping, and it would make sense to me that there's this contract issue if she signed up to this Synthesis 0, but then this possibility about Stargate and potentially running a major franchise has come up, and they're negotiating to get her out of the contract. I'm wondering if that's a possibility. That's me just completely spitballing, but they're negotiating to buy her out of it or to get her out of whatever that is. Or she's only signed on to maybe do a pilot. And as soon as that's done, she'd be free to jump ship. Again, just maybe, I think those are all possibilities.
What's
Peter DeLuise is the other name. Sorry?
Malozzi doing at the moment?
Malozzi. He's just down to write something called Powder Mage. The CV series that he made, Utopia Falls, I think is done. So nothing.
So possibility it could be him.
Joseph Malozzi is a possibility. Personally, I hope not, but I've got very personal agenda against Joseph Malozzi. I'm afraid I'll be straight up with that. I just don't like the guy.
I was just looking at a particular actor from the Stargate franchise to see if he had any experience, and he does have producer experience. So whether or not the next step for him would be maybe showrunner, and one of the things you said in your video is that Stargate fans would be happy with it. It's Richard Dean Anderson himself.
He's an old man, though. And would he want that response? It'd be a lot of work. I mean, one of the reasons why he stepped back away from Stargate was that he wanted to be involved less and wanted more time for charity and family and stuff.
Yeah, he wanted to spend more time with his daughter, who'd be now in her 20s.
Yeah, she's adult. But I mean, the fans would go crazy if he wanted to do it.
It wouldn't necessarily have to be forever. He could do the first season. He could bring Stargate back.
Yeah.
And the fans would go crazy, as you said.
And do you remember, man, he was a co-owner of Gecko that brought the show back first time around. It was a Anderson whatever company that produced the first, was it 4 or 5 seasons under Gecko? So he is a businessman. He knows how these things work. It's possible. And like I say, if you're Amazon and you want to silence critics immediately, all the people going, reboot and don't ruin our show. If you want to silence all those people really quickly, have Richard Dean Anderson involved in any way.
Yeah.
Everyone would just shut up and just wait for the show to be made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talking all about this though, so we worry about that. Talking about Joe Flanagan, that he hasn't maybe got the experience. The thing is, Amazon have got a little bit of form when it comes to just giving these big, massive jobs to just the most random freaking people. So, I mean, you look at Rings of Power. The writers had virtually no experience, and they were given this. I don't think that the main guy, the producers, hasn't got a great deal of experience either in big projects like this, and they let them run with it. So maybe it's just a matter of they've pitched it to so many people.
Well, I suppose it's the case of he may not have the experience on paper, but he has been entrenched in Stargate for years. He still goes to conventions. He lives and breathes Stargate. Obviously, he does other things, but he loves Stargate.
Having someone like to buy that fucking franchise, mate. He tried to buy it.
Exactly. Having someone like that is going to be surely better than just getting Ben from down the road to pick it up and then have them watch the entire franchise to try and pick it up, try and learn the canon, whereas he already knows because he was in it.
Yeah. If George Platzman's just thrown up David Hewlett, which is another name that would, if he doesn't come back.
You see, I'd want him to be on screen as well.
Again, he's got no producer or anything like that experience, as far as I know. He's got no experience at all, or he's never shown the desire. Joe Flanagan has shown the desire to do this. The way I understand the process, how Amazon does it, is that basically they will. Right. So again, the guy I talked to, he says a lot of these rumors have happened because Amazon have been approaching different people about would they be interested in being involved in something along these lines if they brought Stargate back. So that's how a lot of these rumors spread, because executives at Amazon are approaching people. He's actually said that's why he's interested at the moment. That's why he thinks we're getting closer to getting something officially announced, is because the rumors seem to have stopped.
Yeah.
This most recent thing about the showrunner has been approached, and they know they've picked the person. But apparently how it works is like a job interview. They invite people and they come and pitch their ideas, and they sort of and that's how they did it with Lord of the Rings. The writers for Lord of the Rings of Power, got it because they pitched the best idea. And the Amazon executives went, yeah, that's the job. You're in. They didn't really look at their experience. They just pitched the best idea. So if they approached Joe Flanagan, who they know has had this thing, and they said, if we were to do Stargate, what would you do? And he just pitched something they loved. It's not necessarily a problem that he hasn't got. They can bring other people in to help him with the managerial and a lot of the production side of it, executive producers and things like that can support him. That if he's going to just run the show and run the steer the ship in the right direction.
Yeah, all the stories come from the writers who are going to have the experience in actually making or writing good television. He can literally just sit there and be like, "This is where I envision it's going to go. Make a story for me."
And that's what it means. If he's gone into the executive producers or whoever at Amazon and gone, this is what I envisioned for the show, for the franchise. Because let's be honest, they want to do a franchise. They're not talking about one series here. They're talking about Star Trek style franchise, and where they have potentially 3-4 series on the go at once, eventually. if he's come in and gone, this is what I see over the next 10 years, phase 1, Stargate, boom, this is what we want. This is where I want to get us to in 5 years' time. And they blew him. Maybe so. But I think the same for Amanda Tappin. I think Amanda Tappin, if they've gone through her agent and gone, we are thinking about bringing Stargate back. Would you want to be involved? If we did, I'd love to. Okay, well, what would you envisage for it would have to be the same thing, and maybe Amanda Tappin came in and just blew them away, or somebody that we've not even bloody thought of because Amazon are used to doing that. Peter DeLuise is one that I think would come back in a heartbeat. And again, he's not really doing anything at the moment. He's directing something called Christmas Angel, for which I imagine is a straight to. There's not much information on it on IMDb, but it's going to be a straight to wherever Christmas movie, isn't it? TV movie. This whole thing about Christmas keeps coming up. Christmas time that we'll get a firm answer. Maybe it's because he's doing that at the moment, and as soon as that's done, he can sign on to Stargate. He'll run it.
Peter DeLuise, he obviously he did do a lot of directing and stuff for Stargate anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That would actually be
produced
out.
Yeah, I do wonder.
I'd hedge bets on that.
I wouldn't give you great odds on it. Like
57 episodes he did for SG1.
Yeah. He was massively involved, and his whole family was massively involved. It's just like...
Oh, yeah, his dad was Ergo, wasn't he?
Yeah, his dad was Ergo. His wife was involved. He met his wife on the show. Both of his brothers were involved at different points. I think even Dom DeLuise's wife was involved in one episode or something like that. But the list of DeLuise family that are involved in the show at different times was really long. It's like... he is an established director. He's not really doing it. He knows the law. He knows the canon. It's definitely a possibility. And again, I think it would appease fans. He's not, he's maybe not the name, like he hasn't got the name of Amanda Tappin.
Yeah.
Another name I want to throw out there, though, and that would again appease fans immediately and has got some directing and writing credits to his name, is Michael Shanks.
Yeah,
I'll let that mull.
What's he done? The last thing I saw him in was
he's on some medical show at the moment. The Good Doctor.
He was on some sci-fi that I watched. I can't remember what it was called though. Oh, what's he done? So director. He's directed Saving Hope.
Yeah,
and he's done SG1.
Yeah, that's the Saving Hope. I think is the medical drama he's in at the moment, isn't it? I don't watch it. But I follow him on Twitter, so he keeps tweeting about it. But it's all about that thing, though, about appeasing fans. And again, what I get told by the couple of people that still work at MGM that I talk to is that one of the things that has been discussed is that the fans and all the stuff on social media and everything, they've got a very loyal, very motivated fan base that they've got to really be careful about. And I keep mentioning, like, sort of Star Trek, the people are passionate about it in the same sort of way that people like the Trekkies are. And they said, and the same sort of, they don't want to have the new Trek problem where actually they bring back a new show and the original Trekkies, the Star Trek fans, some love it, but equally some people hate it. And get really angry, and it's harmed the franchise, and they don't want to do that again. So they
have to respect canon. It has to respect what's come before it, and not change anything that happened before. Just do new things, but everything that happened.
Yeah. Well, let's say the one guy I speak to said it is a big part of his opinion. It is largely his opinion, but he does work in this area. He said basically that he thinks they will do sort of like a Trek style thing where it's like a hybrid. They say, well, canon will still be, they'll basically go through and pick what the important points of canon are, and they'll reference them. But then, and that's part of what Mark Ferguson and Hawk Ostby are doing at the moment, is they're producing this sort of like series Bible for the new series. And it'll focus on what they're allowed to mess around with and what they're not allowed to mess around with. and there'll be certain story points that are like concreted in canon, and they're not allowed to mess around with. But anything else is fair game. And if they have a story that is interesting and they think pushes things in the right direction, they'll be allowed to play with canon a little bit. I don't know how I feel. I'm a bit, when it comes to canon, I'm a bit I'm a little bit more relaxed than some people, but I'm more stressed than others. I do think there are certain things you can't fuck about with, and there are certain things you can. And Star Trek has always messed around with canon. And like I say, like I'm a Trekkie. Star Trek has always messed around with canon, but there are certain things they don't mess with. And the problem is New Trek is those lines have blurred. And there are things that they shouldn't mess around with that they do. They were always really good at it before, but they've got Stargate can't make that same mistake.
I agree. There's certain things I wouldn't really care if they changed, but there are fundamental things you can't change. Like if they all of a sudden change the gate, like now it's open for like it can be open indefinitely, or I don't know. I'm just trying to think of anything, but I
just don't want them to do sometimes what they'll do with Star Trek though is that they so I just got to get rid of an idiot in the messages. What they do with Star Trek is they'll come up with really lazy reasons why they've broke Stargate or broke canon, and that annoys me. They do time travel something and they explain it. Or I mean, there's lots of things they could. Let's say the gate opening forever. They could say, well, there's an app update or something, or a new technology update or something that
they would have to understand how the gates work to a point even beyond the ancients for that to happen, though, and I don't think that would work.
Yeah. They could do something like, how the gate opens, just goes, and there's no event horizon and stuff. I mean, they could just say that they figured out how to do that, and because we've seen that in canon, so that wouldn't be a problem. There are things they can do to change it up again. What I wouldn't like to see is like a completely different sort of gate. Brad Wright was saying about how he wants that we've built our own. And I can kind of see a point to that maybe, but
I can see
Stargate on the ships maybe might be interesting, but
the thing with the man-made Stargate is if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with having the Milky Way gate? If they had their own man-made gate, I would prefer it if it was more of we figured out how to do short distances so we can get from Earth to the moon base on Atlantis. Yeah. Atlantis moon base. We don't have to use beaming technology. I mean, beaming technology is going to be infinitely better than for that purpose. But I mean, short distance is not like halfway across the galaxy. If it was just short distances, I think that'd work. But then I couldn't really see a story for it.
Technology, isn't it? Sort of thing, an advancement to the ring technology or something.
Yeah,
improvement to that. Yeah, I could see that. There's lots of ways they could do it, but I want to say as well, Star Trek. And I'm going to keep going back to this example of Star Trek because I think it is the show. It's definitely the franchise we want Stargate to, at least on a numbers or a thingy point of view. That should be our competition. That should be what we should compare it to. How popular it is and whatever else like that. Stargate for me should be as big as Star Trek because it's just I think it's better. So, but anyway, Star Trek will change things for the sake of it. In New Trek, they changed the Klingons. Why? They did it because they wanted to freshen it up a bit, and they thought I don't know if I actually think sometimes in Star Trek they do things to annoy fans because then they'll talk about it, and if they talk about it, it's getting it's getting attention. And it almost feels like that's what they're doing, but what they do with Star Trek is they'll throw in an odd little Easter egg or something that they know fans will pick up on, and then they're almost like oh, look over here. Don't worry about all this stuff that we're changing and we're messing around with because we mentioned that character that only you know about, that only you remember, but you know what I mean? It's like I don't want them to do that with a new series. I don't want them to do this. If they do this hybrid idea where they change certain things to allow them to do a new show and to, I think there are things they're going to have to mess around with just to make a new show make sense, maybe. And I'm okay with that. But it's got to be done in a way that's a lot cleverer than they did with Star Trek.
Mm.
You know?
See, I wouldn't like them to do something like changing how the ships work. What I mean is, Tauri ships are very humanly built. They don't look futuristic. I mean, they do because they're spaceships, but they look like
something we would build.
Yeah, it looks like something the US military would just slap together and say, "This is a spaceship." I go, "Is it? It doesn't look like one." But okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want it to be like, I don't know. I'm in two minds about this now, because I like the futuristic element of Stargate, but I also like it being grounded in reality. I wouldn't want the ships to be Star Trek ships, super futuristic with super futuristic technology. I'd like it to have some sort of grounding, I guess, to now. Like, still have futuristic technology, like the wormhole drive, for example. That's fine because we've already seen that in canon anyway. So that's fine. To me, that makes sense that they would develop something for that.
Next evolution, isn't it?
Yeah. But if they created a series and it was a ship-based series, like you mentioned, and the ship was like, it looked more like an Asgard ship, or it looked more like just something from Star Trek, it wouldn't feel like Stargate.
Yeah. Which we've talked about that loads of times, haven't we? That we want Stargate, not Star Trek, 100%.
Yeah.
And the technology has gone so far that that's a concern. But yeah, that's something to, What do you think about Mark Ferguson, Hawk Ostby then? If this rumor is true, and it is a rumor, it's not been confirmed, so we have to take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt. But if they really are sort of like, they really have been asked to produce this, Bible is the only way I can term it, but if they've basically been asked to put something together, they're like, okay, if we do a franchise, what would it look like? Which is basically what they did for The Expanse. They were given the books and they were going, right, make this into a series. All they've been done now is they've been given the 3 series before and gone, right, how do we make this into a new series? So it's a similar thing that they're doing. What do you think about that generally if it's true?
I'm quite excited for the possibility of them being involved. I've not seen all of The Expanse, but I've just finished season 2. I'm on season 3 now. I've seen enough of it to know that it's that I really like it. But I like the style of it. I like that, although it's set in the future, the ships feel very slapped together. Not the Rosie, but some of the other ships. They just feel very slapped together, and they feel like something that would, I don't know. They feel,
They feel grounded. They feel realistic.
Yes.
The different ships.
If you were in space, if you were on the belt, like, you would just make do with what you've got. You'd slap something on the wall to patch a hole. It feels, as you say, grounded. If they brought that realism or grounding to new Stargate, I'm all for it, and that excites me.
I was hoping you'd say that, to be honest, because I was saying there are similarities between, not the storyline or whatever, but there are similarities between the way The Expanse was made and the way Stargate was made. They're talking about it being grounded in a reality, in that there's no very fancy warp drives or something like this, that even though technologically is possible, it's like, we don't, the engineering of it might be a bit out of our league. But I don't know, I suppose we have hyperspace windows, don't we, in Stargate, but there's no science of how they work, but there's always that reality or that grounding into something that we can recognize as like, that's possible. This is actually, I mean, I always think when I watch The Expanse, I always think this is the closest thing to sci reality rather than sci fiction, in that I could see this is what, and you're saying, I like the belters. and the way they would live. When you've got humans on us reality, when we've got lots of resources and lots of money, then we make things that are pretty. We build nice churches, we build a nice architecture, we build fancy cars and things. When we are just doing it for the sake of, I think we build ugly big ass factories and stuff, but it just works. It just does what it's supposed to do,
Yeah.
And they can be horrendously ugly, but they work, and they can get rusty, and they can, thing. But as long as they're still working, they just fix them. We patch them up with it. Look at an oil rig, for example. They're not pretty, are they? And I think that's what it's like going on the belters. And I think that's what people do when we have the time. We like things to look nice, and we would do that in our in our ships and our bases in the future. But when we don't. We just make them functional.
Yeah.
And they did that in the Expanse. The Mars ships, because they were the power of the solar system. Their ships were prettier, and their bases were nicer and things. And you could see that in the designs.
Yeah.
The belt.
That's why I mentioned that the Rosie wouldn't. I wasn't categorizing that in that because it was a Mars ship. So, but yeah, drawing a blank of what I was about to say. So someone just walked in and walked out. So.
Yeah. Oh, how dare they? We were live. Family. Got an empty house. It's glorious. So, no, I think. Oh, sorry, go on.
What I was going to say. Oh, God, it's gone again. Sorry.
I was excited when I heard this thing about Mark Ferguson, Hawk Ostby. Not just because I think Hawk Ostby is the greatest name ever, and I really want to be called Hawk. If I could change my name tomorrow, I'd change my name to Hawk Max Power. I might even investigate how much it costs to do that. Come on.
Why Max Power?
Because it just sounds awesome. I'm Hawk Power. Hawk Max Power. Come on. But it's just like when I heard these guys were involved, I was just thinking that's perfect. They're coming off a show. If they were going to be executive producers, even write some episodes, because remember they wrote a lot of the episodes for The Expanse as well. That's a duo that bring a lot of experience. And then you're talking about a showrunner. He would, if it was Amanda Tappin, who's never done it before, if it was, even Joe Flanagan, say, they would lean on Mark and Hawk a lot.
Yeah.
And if Mark and Hawk do more than just this Bible and actually do come on as producers, which is what they did for The Expanse, so why not? And as far as I know, they've not signed up for anything else major at the moment. I think it's Mark Ferguson in particular has actually got lots of projects on the go, but they're mostly writing gigs. Then I think that could be really amazing. And these guys as well, they tend to work together really well, but even when they were doing The Expanse, they used to both wander off and do different projects because they really do work as a team. So one would sort of focus on The Expanse while the other one was off doing something else. And they would, constantly come back and work together. And then they'd, almost like share the responsibility a little bit. So they could do that again with stuff. So it doesn't concern me that if you look at their IMDb, they've got a lot of upcoming projects because they did do The Expanse as well, and they kept on top of that. So, but yeah, I just think whoever does come into showrun will lean on these two guys a lot, and it doesn't worry me so much because when I first put this rumor out 9 months ago that Amanda Tappin was being tapped up, fun. That somebody comes, well, she's never done that before, so she can't. No, it's rubbish. And I'm like, she's done everything but.
Yeah.
She's acted. It would be the next logical step. And the best showrunners aren't necessarily writers and stuff anymore. They're managers. Kevin Feige has never written or directed anything, as far as I know. He was a producer, and then he stepped up to showrunner, and he's the most successful showrunner, or captain of the ship in probably modern history, with what he's doing at Marvel.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't get my words out tonight. I must be knackered. I've got work in the morning. What I was gonna say about Mark Ferguson and what's his name? Hawk Oxby.
Come on, how can you forget Hawk?
I was going to say Mark.
Mark Ferguson.
Mark Fergie and Hawkeye. Yeah. What I would be excited for, if forget who the showrunner is. So if it's Amanda Tapping, if it's Joe Flanagan, whatever, they as you said, they were going to lean on Mark and Hawk to create something great. What I was going to mention about The Expanse and something that I really liked, this is going back to being grounded in reality, and something that I loved about Stargate was the thing I liked about Stargate was I could picture it being real. With The Expanse, things I've noticed, just how the ships move, things like that, really grounds it for me. There was one particular thing that I thought was really cool, and it was either in season 2 or season 3. Essentially, the pilot, I can't think of his name, Arthur Rossi, had to go through the when they done like the martial law in the system. He had to go through the gaps, but he did that using gravity from all of the celestial bodies. He was completely silent. He had no thrust. He literally just used gravity to get around. And that is the kind of stuff that I'm like, well, yeah, you would do that. And that's what I want to see with
Stargate, though, isn't it, as well? How many episodes in Stargate have we seen that they take I'm thinking about like the black hole episodes and things like that, when they take known physical thing, but they use it in a slightly way that makes you go, oh, they're clever. Something, and it's like for me, that's again one of the hallmarks of Stargate. And I know that come from the writer, because I'm pretty sure that was in the book as well. I did read the books, but it was a long time ago. Sorry. That was in the book, so it's come from the writer. But that's to me, again, it's one of those connections between The Expanse. When they bring back Stargate, all over, I want it to feel and look more like The Expanse than it looks like New Trek. If Stargate comes back and you think this feels like Trek, I'm going to possibly hurt somebody. And I'm not saying that's not. I know I'm on TV at the moment, kind of. So don't take that as a legal threat. I don't want to get sued, but I will lose my shit. And it's going to be. Yeah, I'm gonna drive down to your house and just punch you in the head on TV. It's not your fault either, but I'll just commit violence against somebody. I don't know. It's really funny if I just like disappear off screen and then appeared on your screen. I told you.
We should do that one day.
Yeah, freak people out. But you know what I mean? It's just like they can't. But one of my biggest fears is that they're going to fuck this up. And do you know what? I looked at the Star Trek Picard trailer today. I talked about it on the live stream. I've done a video very quickly on Star Trek Sides, and please go and check that out. But I did say the adverts look amazing. Picard Series 1 looks amazing. They let me down. Picard Series 2 looked amazing. First episode was brilliant. They let us down. Picard Series 3 looks amazing. How are they going to let us down? Because they're going to. Stargate, genuinely, when the first series airs, I will do a video and it will be me there going fucking, because I'm going to be shitting it, because I'm invested in this show like no other. How are they going to fuck it up is my fear.
Yeah.
And guys, get into the comments.
I really don't want them to. Too many of my favorite TV shows have been ruined. Not ruined, but they're not as good as they once was. Doctor Who, for example. Yeah, I'm very annoyed with Doctor Who at the moment. I still love it. Doctor Who is still one of my favorite TV shows. I'm still going to watch Power of the Doctor when it comes out in 2 weeks. I'm very excited for it. But this latest, last 3-4 years, it's just been boring. Just boring. Well, I don't want Stargate to ever be boring.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room then. And I don't like the word woke. I don't like it. For lots of reasons. I did a video about a couple of weeks ago that made people very angry, so we won't go into it again. But it's the word that describes what we're going to talk about. Lots of TV shows at the moment seem to have they're very concerned about the agenda. They're very concerned about hitting as many demographics as possible. They're very. I think we've got an entire culture that's very worried about upsetting anybody. We mustn't upset anyone. And I'm like, we've all got human rights, kind of, but no one's got a right not to be offended. That just doesn't happen. Everyone can, if you're going to get offended about something, that's on you, not anybody else. Unless I physically come into your house and punch you, stuff I say on this screen really shouldn't be a problem. If I say something and you don't like it, tell me I don't like it, and then that should be the end of it, really. Unless I say something like to incite violence or something, which is a bit different. But I shouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, unless it's actual hate speech, or you're rallying people up to get angry at a certain individual or a demographic to cause violence or upset on purpose. Like that's
I
not,
think the only thing that should be illegal is if I say stuff that incites somebody else to commit a violent act or to commit hatred. I should really be able to come up here and go, I hate this and I hate that and I hate something else, even if it is really offensive. I should really be able to do that in a society that has free speech. And then, don't get me wrong, you would all come and rightfully come and tell me why I'm an absolute see you next Tuesday. But the one thing I shouldn't be able to do is say something that incites somebody else to commit a violent act. And if I do, if I say something, I hate this, and then somebody that watches me, that is, is a fan of this channel, goes out and commits a crime based on what I said, I'm comparable.
Yeah.
I'm just as guilty as that person as far as I'm concerned. But I should be able to say pretty much whatever I want. I don't want to say things that are hatred, because I think what you put out into the world is what you get back. I generally believe in karma and these things. So I try to be positive, but I also try to be honest.
Yeah. Well, people, whenever I say to anyone that I've not enjoyed the last 3-4 years of Doctor Who, I'm going to use Doctor Who as an example because it's a great example. A lot of people will take that as, it's because it's a woman doctor, isn't it?
Yeah. But to be fair, she's been great.
She's fantastic. I love Jodie Whittaker. I watched her in shows before, and when she got announced, I was super excited because she'd worked alongside David Tennant. She knows the role. Like she's good at it.
Yeah.
The reason that I don't like the last 3-4 years is because the writing has been terrible.
Mate, Doctor Who was shit under Peter Capaldi as well. Peter Capaldi, I stopped watching it when Peter Capaldi took over. I watched the first few episodes and I stopped watching it.
There were a few episodes of Capaldi's which were really good.
Yeah.
But not many. Yeah. I would agree with that. But yeah, I'm counting the Capaldi in that as well, because Whittaker's only been Doctor for 2 years? 3?
2 or 3
Is
most.
It 3? If I can't even remember how. Oh no, I think actually it was 2017 she got announced. I really can't remember. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, if you say you don't like a TV show, a lot of people will take that as fuel, I guess, just to be like, it's because of this demographic. It's because of this person's black, or this person's gay, or it's a woman, and it's unless you say that, that's not what you mean. Don't I wouldn't want someone to think I have that viewpoint just because if I say I don't like the current season of Doctor Who, for example, and someone in the comments says that, then that's my viewpoint. Like, it's not.
My only issue is maybe that people do get very angry about black characters, gay characters, and all this sort of thing. And like I say, I think sometimes people use the term woke to actually just express their own bigotry. But I do know they've got a point when it comes to certain things, like in characters in Star Trek, when it's a gay character, say, but they really go on about it quite a lot. And you're just thinking, well, they wouldn't be going on about it this much if they were heterosexual. But for me, I don't care if I've got friends. It's one of those things that all racists say. I got friends that are black, but no, I got friends that are gay. I do not give a flying that he's gay. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I'm not a Christian. I don't think he's committed any sins, and it doesn't bother me.
The funny thing about it is the actor isn't actually gay. He played a gay character.
Yeah, sort of thing. I remember years ago. I remember I was with a girl at the time, and we saw two guys kissing, and I apparently went, oh, and I sort of held her hand tight, and I just turned away, and she was like, oh shit, I'm dating somebody that's like homophobic. Then a couple of weeks later, we saw just two people, a girl and a boy, kissing, and I went, oh, and she actually like grabbed me. She goes, because for God's sake, I thought you were homophobic. And it's like, you just hate public affection, don't you? And I was like, yeah, shouldn't do it in your own home. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't, I don't care who's doing it. I just don't want it. I'm British. Don't kiss in the street. What's wrong with you people? But and I'm on the same. But it just seemed at the moment, Hollywood. I think somebody just said this. What was the thing? Don't care. No, Kevin, here's a bummer. Melosi told me on Friday you can't produce anything holiday without being woke. I do not agree with Joseph Melosi's politics. I'm going to straight up there. I've talked to Joseph Melosi a lot, and I will be honest with you. I've blocked him because on Twitter because he made me quite angry. Don't talk to your heroes is my advice. His views on the environment made me angry. So I just don't, like I said, I tried to put that out there, everyone, because if I say anything negative about Joseph Melosi, I don't want it to, I want to be honest about why. His writing and everything else was always brilliant, and I love. And if he came back in Stargate, I would support him. But if ever he tried to put his politics into a show, I would be the first one to go bullshit.
It's because you enjoy his product, you don't enjoy him. It's separating art from the artist.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing with like J.K. Rowling. She's a terrible person, but I love Harry Potter.
Yeah, so we can separate the two. That's fair. But most story writers and things, they do put themselves into the story. So there's things that they're passionate about. All the best sci-fi has got layers to it, has got an agenda to it. They're trying to tell you something, or teach you something, or highlight a problem in society, or whatever else. There's a lot of android storylines that are really commentaries on slavery and or attacks on our freedom and things like this. That's where the android or the robot story sort of like starred in a lot of sci-fi. There's layers to it, and I have no problem with that. I do have a problem. I was going to say as well, Hollywood seems to be. Hollywood has been racist for a very, very long time. It's very clear that in lots of movies, the top actors, the black actors, regardless of how good they are, Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, whatever else, they get paid a lot less than the equivalent, stars that are white. It's been massively sexist for decades, and still to this day, women actresses earn half what the male does. And they can't say lead. Chris Pine earned more than Gal Gadot in both of the Wonder Woman films, even though the film is freaking called Wonder Woman.
She's the leading lady. Like, she should be paid the most.
And she got paid less. There was a statistic, I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently the guy that used to be in 90210 appeared in Sharknado like 6 or something, and apparently got paid more than Gal Gadot did for the first Wonder Woman movie. And I don't know if that's true, but if it is true, it's one of those things that I believe, and it's just wrong. But it does feel like a lot of Hollywood now feels so guilty about it, which, to be honest, they probably should. But they feel so guilty. They're almost like going the other way. They're almost like making it like, it's almost like every thing they do now is like, has to be like an apology letter. And I was like, you know what? It's not, okay, do it a little bit, but then let it go. And
here's a different take. I've just thought about it because obviously you mentioned storylines and things, and like issues being raised in sci-fi, like Tilk and the Hold Your Fart is like a commentary on slavery and is led by a very prominent black male actor. The way it's going now, though, is it not just that we're steering away from casting? I'm just going to use black actors and actresses as an example here. we're not casting them as slaves in the storyline to highlight what slavery was. Now we're just making them more just regular characters. Like, what's wrong with that? That should be how it should have always been, because I feel like it would have been back in the day when you hired a black person, it would be because we need to be authentic, and we need to have, like, slavery was for black people, so we need a black person to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the characters that they typically play.
There was a purpose behind the casting as well.
Yeah. Whereas now we can just hire a black person, a gay person, a trans person, just to be a person, a character, not without any backstory kind of thing. Just they're just there.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter. I was saying half of the cast of any major TV series should be female, because half of the population is female, in theory, depending on what it's set in, obviously. I mean, exactly. If you do a TV drama in a hospital, really, there should be more women than men. 20 to 30% in anywhere in the West should be of some sort of ethnic minority, because that's the thing, and a good proportion should be some sort of homosexual. But the point is, that can be part of their character. It shouldn't overtake the storyline. The story should be the thing. It's a lot of these things. The sci-fi is a metaphor for slavery, for something else, and it's trying to tell us, but it's layered. My problem is sometimes it just smacks at it. In Picard Series 2, Episode 2, there's a scene with Seven of Nine and the other woman whose name I can never remember. And they're just sort of like talking about the story, and there's blah, 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 blah. And then there's just this weird scene that sticks out because they start talking about the race riots. And it's got nothing to do with anything. It's got nothing to do with the story at all. And then they just go back to the story. And it's just like, what was that? And it's an agenda bit. But just
being
here
black or being gay shouldn't be a plot point. Unless the story is like a drama about gay people.
The best one that I've seen that do that, though, was the gay point did become a plot point, was when they made Sulu's character in the last Star Trek movie gay. But not Walter Koenig. Oh God, what was his name? George Takei. He just passed away. And obviously he was gay, and he was a big fighter of gay rights. So they made Sulu's character gay. There was nothing in actual canon to say that he wasn't. He had a daughter, but they just said, well, they adopted or whatever. And I thought that was a brilliant, but that did stick out, but it was with a point. And it was brilliant. It was so nice. And actually, true Star Trek fans were all there going, yeah, that's brilliant. Real nod to the actor. And I love that. But that's the thing. But anyway, quickly to talk about this, because we've only got a couple of minutes, and we promised we'd be done by 9, didn't we? And I haven't had my tea yet. So how possible is the new Stargate series, Tim? So let's just round that up. If you are new to the channel, then fair enough. But if you're a regular side tracker, you'll know that it's very possible. If I was to give it a percentage, I would say it's any TV show in early planning stages can go wrong and can be scrapped. And until it is actually greenlit and they've signed on to pay for at least a series, it's 50-50 about whether it can happen or not. I can tell you for a fact that there is some pre-planning going on. After that, it's rumor. I can tell you for a fact Amazon are looking to bring back Stargate, and that's 100%. I'm hand on my heart, on my children's lives. I know that for a fact. All these other things are, you got to take with a pinch of salt, because there's lots of information out there. Like I said, I get told loads of things about Stargate I don't share, because I either don't believe it, or I, for whatever reason, know it's not true, because I get loads of information. If I do get a piece of information that I think is a rumor, but it's interesting, I will tell you, but I will tell you very carefully that it's a rumor. But I would say that I'm 90% certain Mark Ferguson, Hawk Ostby are doing this Bible. It's possible it's not true, but I'm like 80-90% certain it's true. And I'm 80-90% certain that a new showrunner has been, that they've agreed a new showrunner. Whether that leads to a show, I'm 50-50. I'm absolutely certain, though. Actually, I'm 100% certain Stargate will return at some point. I'm certain it will. It's too big a franchise not to. But I see it a bit like Star Trek, how everyone got a bit Trek fatigue, and I think people did get Stargate fatigue. People got a bit bored of the show. It needs like 10 or 15 years off, like Star Trek had, and then come back with something that's a bit new.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that's not going to be a hard reboot. I don't think a hard reboot can't happen because not enough time has gone by. Battlestar Galactica worked because 30 years had gone by, and that was okay. I don't think that could work, but and I think Stargate fans would go crazy. But I'm 100% certain it will come back at some point. Whether that's I would say that I'm 50-50 that it's something to be announced at Christmas. I'm 50-50. Whether something to be, I'm 100% within the next 5 years we'll have Stargate. 100%.
Yeah.
Certain.
Stargate Universe didn't help the end of Stargate, I guess. But I've said it before. It would, if they didn't do Stargate Universe then and they brought it out now, it would do way better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think Stargate Universe was possibly slightly ahead of its time. But the other problem with Stargate Universe, it was so different to SG-1 and SG Atlantis. I think it turned a lot of Stargate fans off. Stargate fans, even now, are very much split down the middle about SGU. They love it or they hate it.
Well, it almost put me off. I saw the trailer and it wasn't Stargate how I knew it or how it had been ever. But I gave it a chance and I loved it. A lot of other fans probably watched the first season, but then gave up on it, and I don't blame them for that because the first season was very slow, very slow. Yeah, the second season, fantastic, and if they'd have had a third, it would have gone on for years, I reckon. But
yeah, and it's a shame really that they didn't have a bit more trust in it, to be honest, because it was getting better. And how many sci-fi, we keep saying this, how many sci-fi series over the years have had not very good first, second series? The first season of Next Generation wasn't very good. They had to mix it up. They had to, they kicked Geordie LaForge into engineering. They killed Tasha Yar off. They rejigged the show, and it went on to be, the start of a massive franchise. The first series of Stargate wasn't very good. Stargate SG-1. They had no money. They had some brilliant episodes, but you look back at it now, like, it's a bit dated.
Yeah,
but,
it is. When I go through my rotation of watching it again, the first season is a bit of a slog. Like I don't enjoy it as much as the later seasons.
Yeah. But SGU, I see in the comments now, there was no humor in SGU. George didn't think Eli was funny. It wasn't funny. Eli was supposed to be the comedy in that series, but the problem was it didn't work. He wasn't particularly funny, and the genius of Stargate was it was funny in places. It was situational comedy in places. It was slapstick in places, but it was always sort of like, I said this in another video. It's always really grounded humor. It wasn't humor for humor's sake. People in difficult, strenuous, stressful situations. Particularly, I'm British. We're terrible at it. We make a joke when things are bad, and that's what Stargate did. I watch dramas all the time, and they think, "Oh God, it's so gritty and true to life," and I'm like, "It's not, because there's no humor in it." In that situation, somebody would crack an inappropriate joke because it's what we do. It's how we cope.
I do disagree with you about Eli not being funny though. He was my favorite character.
He was my favorite character as well. He was my favorite character by a mile as well.
Rush was the polar opposite. Like, he was very serious and very angry. He was just an angry Scotsman. I just loved his character. But Eli, I thought he was the most grounded, I think.
He was likable. He wasn't funny. He wasn't laugh out funny. He tried to be, but it wasn't. It didn't work. But he was the most likable by a mile. Right. Anyway, look, guys, get in the comments. Tell us if you want us to come back and do another video like this, because we were going to talk about our SGC series and we forgot. because we start talking about other things, then please let us know. If you want us to come back, we can do this every few weeks if you want us to. So please let us know. And we will anyway, because we like talking about it. So thank you, Matt, for appearing. I'm very, very hungry. I'm going to go now. And I've done 3 hours of recording this afternoon. So thanks, Matt. Say bye-bye.
Bye.
Please more videos. Please more videos like this. Yeah, okay. Okay, we'll do it then. Good night, guys. Have fun.
Bye.